Welcome to Beer and Business. You've turned into the best podcast on the interwebs. We drop crafty knowledge on you every week about business, but we have fun and keep it real. And yes, we talk about beer. Because it's beer. So sit back, crack open a cold one, because learning is better with barley and hops. And now, introducing our hosts, the full-bodied philosophers. If he was to pat you on the back, you'd list it on your resume. It's Jake Mullins. And his beer never gets cold. It just sits there, staying frosty, waiting for him. Ladies and gentlemen, John Winnie.
All right, folks. Well, here we are, special episode of Beer and Business. We are live at Monday Night Brewing. I'm Jake.
This is John.
And welcome. So we've got the founders. We have two of the founders of Monday Night Brewing. We've got Jeff Heck, the CEO. Jeff, thank you.
My pleasure.
And we've got Joel Iverson, Chief Operating Officer.
Glad to be here.
So first of all,
Thank you.
want to start this show off with some acknowledgments, some thank yous. First of all, thank you to you guys for having us out here. Thanks for all you guys for coming. Thanks, Aaron, for putting this on.
Good job.
Appreciate
Aaron.
it. And if you're listening, you should go online and watch the video. This is a multi-dimensional experience, Mr. Winnie, isn't it?
These faces were made for radio.
That's right.
And just so people know that this is a live show, can we get a round of applause for the founders of Monday Night Brewing?
Wow.
Now, just for the record, would you have given Mr. Winnie the same type of applause? Yeah, there's a couple. So we'll work on that, Mr. Winnie.
That's all right. Our tens of listeners out there.
All right, well, listen, I'd love to hear you guys' story. I've read what I can read on the internet, but I want to hear the stuff that I can't find when I just get out there and read what you guys have on your website.
On the dark web.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I want to know the
dark web version.
real story.
All right.
So tell us, guys, I understand you guys got started at home brewing, but give us that story.
Absolutely. So we got started because Joel and our other partner, Jonathan, and I, and another 7 or 8 young men in our early or mid-20s were in a small group Bible study. That most brewery stories, origin stories, do not start off with those words. But we were in a small group Bible study that met on Friday mornings, and we didn't all know each other very well. Some of us knew each other, but we had a particularly quirky guy in our group named Jonathan Baker, our co-founder, and we were like, man, we got to find some ways to get everybody talking in some casual context. And so we thought, well, what can we do that would be a great context to get to know each other better?
Important fact, the Bible study was at 6 a.m. on Fridays, so not the prime time to like hang out as a bunch of dudes.
But beer makes everything better.
It does. So Monday nights were open on the calendar. So Monday nights became our weekly brewing night. So the first batch of beer we made, we like to say tasted directionally like beer.
That's about all you can say.
About all you could say about it. But it was close enough that we decided that tasting actually like beer was within reach. So we kept brewing. And before we knew it, we were making more beer than a single Bible study in good conscience could actually consume by itself. So we started inviting friends and neighbors and coworkers over to the backyard. And it became a weekly ritual where 20 to 50 people would show up in the garage. Fitting that we're now staying in the Monday Night Garage. And now you know this origin of the name too.
Awesome.
That's cool. And we would brew, we would hang out. And Joel and Jonathan and I really took the bull by the horns on the liquid, creating a place where people could just come and feel welcome. And we had a whole bunch of other people that started to come around us to welcome new people that were there. We had people that had no business being friends in real life that really got to know each other and connect over beer. And we loved that about beer. It's this communal beverage that breaks down walls and builds community. And so we did that for 4 years.
It's actually the reason why we do networking events at breweries. What better way to break down that awkward, like, hey, what do you do than well, what are you drinking there?
If you don't have anything else to talk
exactly.
about, you can at least talk about the beer.
And this was 2006. This was before Twitter even existed. We actually were blogging about it. This is a time when like people actually read blogs and their attention span was more than 160 characters. And we would, all these people would just show up because they started, people from England and, people from all across the U.S. being like, hey, I'm flying through Atlanta. Can I come on Monday? I've been reading your blog for 2 years and
That's
on
crazy.
and on. And it was this crazy thing that really spanned, we're brewing in essentially in Jeff's garage and people from all over the place were just coming out of the woodwork. And it was pretty cool.
That is awesome.
Yes.
So you're right. This is the first brewery story that I've heard that starts with a small group.
Yeah. Not a lot of them out there as far as we're aware.
Right.
But-
Right.
You guys might have that market cornered.
Yeah. Well, at some point, then at some point it shifted to the conversation of like, hey, could this be a real business? And so Joel and Jonathan and I were just cleaning bottles at the end of some night, like sanitizing bottles we'd gone dumpster diving for.
Yeah.
And we said, hey, what if we put a business plan together? What if we thought about maybe could this be something bigger? And we looked around the room, and Jonathan's background is in marketing consulting. He had done branding and marketing consulting and great with design. Joel's background was in operations and is just a driven project-driven, operational, technical kind of brain. And my background's in finance and strategy. And so we sort of looked around the room and felt like, man, you can put a better like business team together. And we liked each other. And so we said, all right, let's just give this a shot. So we put a business plan together and launched the business officially in 2011.
Wow.
So how long between when you guys said, maybe we can do this, let's start working on a plan, how long between that moment and brewery open, what was that amount of time?
5 years. I mean,
Yeah, it was about
basically
5 years.
5
Yeah.
years.
I mean,
Wow.
we put together a 3-year plan and we completed it in 5, I think, was how it went.
Never give up.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So tell us about that 5 years. What happened in the span of that 5 years from you guys going from idea,
Some of the biggest
plan
obstacles.
creation, to we opened?
Oh man. So the first thing we did in our business plan.
By the way, there's a marching band next door,
Yeah.
which
that's
is
great.
proof that this is a live show.
We have a gathering of a school next door, so they must have brought from teachers. So they must have brought in the students from the marching band. Anyway, back to our
That's
question.
awesome.
This is what happens when you're in the organic garage.
I love it.
That's right.
I like to tell the story. People used to have to use the bathroom coming through the kitchen, where my wife was studying for law school. So people are always up in our business, and that's fine. That's the way we like it. But we had a business plan was kind of 3 parts. The first part was how do we just get good at brewing beer, right? We didn't kid ourselves that we had some leg up on all kinds of other incredibly experienced, capable brewers. So let's just figure out how to make beer. So we tried all kinds of different recipes. We tinkered with processes. We read a bunch. We drank a lot of beer. The second year, the goal was refine our handful of recipes that we want to launch the business with. Let's brew those over and over and over again until we feel great about them. And then the third year was let's go get raise whatever kind of money we need to do, find a wholesaler, actually execute the business side of things. And it roughly worked out in that. I'd say the last step took a little bit longer, but that was roughly the process that we followed as we were getting started. All the while we were working day jobs
Yeah.
and
Right.
starting to have kids and
Yep.
Right.
Funny how life happens.
Yeah.
So you guys opened a brewery 2011.
so actually we actually started we opened the brewery in 2013. The very first beer we sold was actually co-packed. So we had another brewery that made our beer for us, and because we were like, we're not going to go sink millions of dollars into a brand new brewery, not even having proof of concept. So we started that way, and within a few months, we knew, okay, we got to go find our own space. So we actually didn't open the doors to our first location until 2013.
Wow.
And it was if you think about it, there hadn't been a new brewery opened in Georgia, and I want to say actual production brewery, I think about 10 years. And in the city of Atlanta, it had been 15 years since a brewery had actually opened in the city of Atlanta. So we're like, and we talked to all these brewery owners. They're like, this state is terrible for opening a brewery. Don't do it. On and on. We're like, are we gonna? Do we want to like actually like? What if we just launch new beer and it turns out no one in Georgia wants new beer, even though they do in other parts of the country? So we started with that, like, hey, let's dip our toes in the water. Let's contract brew and see if we've got something here. And within a month of selling those first few beers, it's like, okay, we've got something. We need to actually like go full steam and build the physical brewery.
That's awesome.
So you tried it out. You gave your recipe to a brewer, and they brewed it for you and canned it and everything.
Yeah, we started with two recipes. One was Drafty Kilt, which we still sell. Still one of our best-selling beers.
And you came up with that recipe in your garage? Is that right?
Yeah. This is a recipe that we did actually. One of my own homebrew recipes that survived the
and that won
years.
a gold medal at the 202014 Great American Beer Festival.
So the barrel aged version of this beer won gold in 2016, 2015.
2015, and then the non-barrel age won a bronze in the World Beer Cup, which is pretty cool. Like
really?
Silver, bronze or silver. Which is pretty
so
cool.
many medals to keep track of. Right?
Just first world problems.
Yeah.
Right. And the other was Eye Patch Ale, which was kind of an English style IPA that we loved, but over time, obviously, you guys drink enough beer to know that the consumer taste for IPAs has changed a lot. IPAs are still by far the biggest category in craft beer, but what kinds of IPAs people like has really changed. And so that beer, so great beer, it's really well done, but wasn't on trend. It wasn't pulling through like a lot of the newer things we were doing were. So we decided to pull the plug on that one and subbed in some others that I like. Slap Fight, which has done phenomenal. It's now our number one selling beer.
Yeah, it's a great beer.
Blind
Pirate actually was another original recipe in the garage.
Really?
But it was a different recipe.
If I could brew beer like that at my house, I wouldn't leave the house.
It didn't taste quite this good on the homebrew system. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
But we did a seasonal version of our original Blind Pirate recipe that had that had blood orange juice in it.
Right.
And that beer did really, really well. And so we ended up actually swapping it out for the base beer. So we discontinued the original Blind Pirate and did just the blood orange now.
So I got a confession to make, okay? Blind Pirate is one of my top 5 favorite beers of any category.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I absolutely love it. I mean, I know everybody's got their own taste, but that beer is so consistent. It's so delicious. It's like the perfect blend for a double IPA. It's got that maltiness, but you haven't sacrificed the hops. I mean, it's just such a beautiful beer, and it's just got that little something at the end, that little orange.
Citrus really helps.
Yeah. But it's not
just
over.
beautiful.
I've had a lot of IPAs that have just way too much. It's almost like a sharp grapefruit, and it's nothing like that. It's really good.
Our team did a great job. Our production team, our brewers, are phenomenal at taking like our okay ideas and turning them into great ideas that are really well executed. So I give all the credit to those guys for that.
So talk to us about the brand, guys. I love your branding, and I told you this, Jeff, when we were talking before we started. You guys have great logo. Your cans look phenomenal, but I want to know where the ideas for that came from. What you guys went through in the design process to land on the cans that you have now and the branding that you have.
So we started out, our original logo was this, we started thinking about names, and we said, all right, well, let's call it Monday Night Brewing. Like, this is kind of, not super creative, but we brew on Monday nights. And then our first logo was actually a monk. We're thinking Bible study, like we'll put the monk, like, and you read like, the story of beer in Belgium and the monks and how they really just pioneered this amazing beverage that we know and love today. But then Jonathan, who our third partner, is the genius behind the brand. But basically he was like, guys, Monday night does not connect with, like, the name doesn't connect with the monk. And we're not a Belgian brewery that's only brewing Belgian beers. And like, it doesn't all connect. And so he kind of, I think, had one of these times where he's like, I'm just going to blow up the whole thing and see where it goes. And he, one morning, Saturday morning, he's like, Joel, put on a coat and tie. I'll be at your house in like 10 minutes. And I was like, all right, dude. And he shows up. He snaps like a picture of me like holding up my arm, and then he does a quick thing in like Illustrator, and then like turns it in. And he's like, "Here's our new logo." I was like, "Whoa, okay." And he's like, and our new tagline is "Weekends are overrated." And it was kind of this idea of saying like, let's not try to fight against who we are. We're sort of these white collar dudes working our day job, loosening the necktie and brewing beer on a weekday, and not sort of try to pretend like we're Belgian brewers or whitewater rafters and we're not in Colorado, right? And just kind of embrace who we were, and kind of found that a lot of people really appreciated that, right? And it was,
you know what I like about it? A lot of beer brands want to connect their consumer to them, but your brand connects to who your consumer is, which I think is brilliant because, I mean, I think Mr. Winnie and I consume more beer during the week than we do on the weekend.
Yeah. Usually I'm working on weekends, but
right. I mean, we do real work on the weekends, like cutting trees down and that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
And then from there, the tie became like the sort of the emblem that tied it all together.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Yeah, that was
nice.
So when we were thinking about redesigning our packaging about a year and a half ago, we felt like that. We wanted to sort of make the logo a little bit less prominent, but we still needed that thing that was true to what our brand was. So the necktie was, as if you've been to our tap room, our original tap room, there's a floor to ceiling 15-foot wall of neckties that our guests have brought in to us and put up on the wall. In many cases, they've signed them. It's just a really, really cool way to, again, physically connect like our customers and our guests to the place, to that physical place. And that was really important to us because, we were brewing at my house for 4 years. We did the math one time and figured that about 2,000 people had come through my house over those 4 years. And so the first few months that we gave tours at the brewery, I would always ask people like, and hey, how many people have been to my house? And like half the people would raise their hand. And that's what, frankly, if it hadn't been for those people who had been to my house, who had used the bathroom off my kitchen, who had, done us the compliment of forcing their way through that batch of beer that probably wasn't as good as we thought it was.
Right.
Those are the people who have been our advocates and our champions from day one, and we really owe them a ton of credit for that. And I love the necktie because it just pulls that story back into the physical place where we are.
And
today.
even the dinosaurs up on this wall, you'll notice are all wearing neckties as they fight each other with lightsabers.
Oh my gosh, I did not notice that. That is brilliant. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
If you look at our Garage Series bottle labels, all the animals are wearing
All the
neckties.
animals have a
So
little
the tie is
necktie.
always kind of around.
That's awesome. So I got to tell you guys, I think what you've done here on the branding side is great because I think what a lot of breweries miss is that as a consumer, the vast majority of consumers are introduced to you through your packaging.
Right.
And I was introduced to Monday Night Brewing through your packaging. Your packaging is great. And it just drew my eyes. I grabbed one off the shelf, took it home and tried it, and found a delicious beer. And that process is so important. And I've seen a lot of breweries make labels that they like, not necessarily thinking about the fact that this is a business.
Like their customers, their regular customers not going to recognize it.
Your number one goal is to get that thing off the shelf as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And you guys have really dynamic packaging that does that. And your eye is drawn in. You have very consistent packaging from one to the next. So, hats off to you guys. You do it right.
Jonathan deserves all the credit for all the packaging. We actually, when we were going through and refreshing our packaging, we went out to a few different designers. We actually solicited about 100 or so different designs, like kind of, and put them all up against each other. And Jonathan sort of snuck a couple of his own in there as well. And his are the ones that came out on top when we all looked at him. He's just a uniquely gifted guy. So, but it's interesting. You have to sort of balance in beer. Like on the one hand, you have to take yourself seriously as a business and use the sophisticated side of your brain before you've had those few pints. But on the other hand, you have to be honest with yourself and the consumer. Like, it's just beer. It's just beer. We're not saving the world here. It's meant to be fun. And if you take yourself too seriously, you run the risk of also not connecting with your consumers. Like, come on, guys, really? That we also like to just have a lot of fun with the names. Like we have like a list of 50 to 100 like names that just we'll be talking around the office and it's like, oh, put it on the list. So we've got a whole running list, and it's just fun. Half of them will like never make it on to a beer label.
Like the one Jonathan mentioned today, he's like, I want to make a beer called Multiple HR Violations.
I've not drank that beer, but I've had that experience.
Oh man. There's actually one of the beers that we did out of the garage recently came about because a beer we did called Piranha Dealer. It's a strawberry milkshake IPA. Came about because Joel procured some purported piranhas from his fish dealer
in New Jersey.
So he starts telling us about his piranha dealer in New Jersey. And so Piranha Dealer went on the list. It was like, oh man, that's great. Who has a piranha dealer?
Well,
and so we decided then, hey, the strawberry milkshake. It's got that like red tint to it, kind of like blood in the water.
Nice.
Piranha Dealer came off the list.
Nice. Love it.
But I think there's also like we've enjoyed just kind of taking that fun to everything. So, with our company, we have these 5 core values. Each core value has a character that's symbolized by it, and when we have our quarterly company meetings, we wear denim jackets, and you get these patches. So like one of the core values is honor people, and if you get nominated for the patch for honoring people, you get a Care Bear patch that goes on your denim jacket. and then if you get nominated a second time, like another quarter, you get a little star underneath it, like the college football decals that go on your helmet. So just a way to like in a fun way recognize really specific and concrete things that people do that really do matter, but in a way that's fun and acknowledges like, hey, this is a privilege we get to do this for a living. It's really awesome.
Yeah. So the whole culture of your company is just you promote the whole fun aspect of it.
So I'd say our core values, none of them are like can be taken alone, right? Like you can't be a real business and be purely have your main value be let's have fun.
Well,
right?
yeah.
But that's absolutely a core part. So another one is fight for excellence. So we're incredibly rigorous about our lab, our QA, our sensory work, the quality of the product we put out. And so on the one hand, yeah, we're gonna have fun. We're gonna come up with some crazy name called Piranha Dealer for a beer to make fun of Joel,
basically. But
you better believe that beer is going to be really damn good because we have worked really hard to make sure that we've fought for excellence with that. And our teams put in a lot of time to make sure the can looks great, the liquid tastes fantastic, it's marketed well. We've got great collateral to give to our distributors. I love about our core values. They all kind of have to work together. If you're going to tell people just have fun, like, I don't know, go work at a tech startup that'll run out of money in 6 months. But at the same time, like we also don't want to take ourselves too seriously as well, and recognize that, we don't want to disconnect the idea of having a good time from what we do.
So one of the things I really admire about you guys, and we were just talking about this, and I was actually surprised, but you guys have a lot of discipline when it comes to the quality of product and the flavor. And you were telling me about you guys budget for this. So talk to us about how stringent you guys are on quality of your product.
Just one thing we did in the last 6 months is pretty much bet the farm on like, hey, we're gonna invest a lot of money, like $1.5 million on a new canning line. And it really, canning in craft beer, it's tough, like, because it's really tough to get a high quality product in sort of the smaller canned craft beer lines that will be stable, and it might taste great day 5 after it was canned, but it's not going to taste great at day 30 after it was canned. And so we got pretty, kind of said, hey, we want to reinvest, and this is scary, and we're going to take out another loan to really get the top of the line canning line that will give us the quality we want and kind of take us to that next level. And that was scary each time, but now we're drinking beers off of that, and we're saying this was the right move. These are the things that, and investing in the lab, we have 2 full-time lab people that, we're saying, like today, they're looking at the carbonation of the beer in the tank and then saying, all right, Are we losing any carbonation in the final product? We're running all these tests to say, hey, before this goes out into the market, is this going to taste the way we taste it right now? Or are there things that could potentially change the taste from the way it tastes right now? I mean, we do things that almost no other brewery in the country is doing. Our barrel program here, we probably had close to, I think, 600 or 700 wooden barrels here. And we did lab analysis on every single barrel before we blended it back in to say, all right, does this meet our criteria? And we'll dump a barrel and say, this barrel is not good. We'll dump whole entire tanks if we say this does not represent the brand. And that's tough, because you can't, you're like, all right, this is money literally down the drain, but it's also the right thing to do for the long term.
I think it's the right thing to do. And also your space is getting really crowded. I mean, there's something like 7,000 breweries across the country right now. And we actually just last week in our Beer Belly Reviews segment, we did 3 IPAs from Georgia breweries, and not one of them tastes like an IPA. I mean, really, I didn't even know what to say. We were kind of dumbfounded about the whole thing.
Right, yeah.
But it just showed, like, there's a lot that we've tried recently from smaller breweries where you can tell that discipline's not there. And you only get one chance at a first impression, or maybe it's a second or third, and you drink one, you're like, that's no good. I'm not going back anymore. Yeah. And so I understand that that's expensive, but I think it's absolutely the right move. And I, obviously as somebody that likes beverages that are made from hops and barley,
if you put
I've
IPA
not had
in
a bad
can,
one
it should
from you
taste
guys.
like an IPA.
Yeah.
Not some citrus thing. If it's a citrus IPA, that's one thing. Make sure you put it on the label.
Exactly.
But a lot of these brewers aren't doing it.
Well, another thing that we've done is I think it's really hard to do in the moment when you look at the costs and the foregone revenue that you have from dumping a batch of beer or pivoting away from it. And I mean, sometimes you find a product comes out and it's actually a really good beer, but it doesn't quite taste like you thought it was, and maybe your label's not right. Yeah. And so, you have to kind of pivot away from it and say, is there another way to kind of tell the consumer what this is?
Right.
But we budget to dump beer down the drain. We hope it doesn't happen. But over time, we've just realized if we don't, that's just a way to remind ourselves, like, look, there's a ripcord to pull if this does not meet our standards. And one, it makes us a lot more proud of everything we put out. And then two, just from a business standpoint, we want to put great beer in everybody's hands, because to your point, there are 6,999 other breweries in the country, and a bunch of people making great beer in Georgia and around the country that sell beer in Georgia. And we love that. And we want to be part of elevating craft beer in Georgia and around the country. And that starts with having really high standards. Last year, we had a $30,000, dollar dump of beer that we just dumped down the drain. There wasn't actually anything wrong with
Mr.
it.
Winnie.
I know.
I can think he's about to clutch his chest.
So then our goal, right? Like, then our goal is like, so that can't happen again for the same reason. But if something else happens, we want to learn from our mistakes. We don't just want to like celebrate. It's just term like celebrate failure, which I think is like so stupid. It's just not a way to run a business. Right. But failure is an opportunity to learn something.
Sure.
Exactly.
So we how we phrase that in our core values is embrace mistakes, because a mistake is an opportunity to learn something and to get better. But then let's have the discipline and the rigor not to make the same mistake twice.
Right. Absolutely.
So let's talk about the people side of this. You guys touched on culture a little bit. Tell me you guys have a really strong culture. And if you talk to anybody that works on your team, they'll tell you that. And you guys talk about it. What does it take to join the team at Monday night?
Joel?
So Jeff and I and Jonathan, we all sort of have a pet peeve about like the companies that are like, we have the best culture, we do blah, blah, blah. Like, it's amazing, because we're pretty freaking honest when new people come in and we say, listen, we're a mess. and it's not as amazing as it looks from the outside, but we hope that in the midst of that mess that we do, like, we do care a lot, and we're going to try, and we're going to keep getting better. I actually think the biggest thing that we look for when people are joining our team is that really that character matters the most. You can get some people that are so smart and they're super, super buttoned up and all that. But if they're not going to buy into sort of our Monday night way and our core values, and honestly, in some ways, if like the purpose statement of the brand is Monday Night Brewing exists to deepen human relationships over some of the best beer in the country, which basically means, hey, you care about people, you care about making this really good beer. And if we want people that they buy into that and they align with that, and if you're coming to just say, hey, I just want to get rich as a brewer, not the place to be.
You're in the wrong industry.
You don't make much money in beer. Or I'm really honestly, like, or if you're really like I'm all about myself. A lot of times people ask what is it just one mastermind that makes Monday night work? And I'm like, it really isn't. It's really these pieces, the marketing side and the brewers. And, we have our brewmaster, Peter, is a genius, but he's also got a team of guys all around him that are just cranking out amazing stuff. And it sounds super cliche, but it really is. Like, the team is more important than the me.
Of course.
And it's got to be the people that buy into that, I think, is the most important thing.
Some of the other things we've done. I think one thing is just acknowledging that we're not, like, our culture's not for everybody, right? So I mean, I've worked in some different places, and if you're not willing to be have really direct conversations with people, as an example, like, we're a very direct culture. So if something doesn't taste right, or if a mistake got made, we're not going to come down hard on somebody, but you better be ready to, if you come in and say, hey, Jeff, this beer's not tasting like I think it should, or hey, we have a problem. You kind of know you got to, or anybody does that with anyone, you better be ready to offer a solution and have thought through the problem and the underlying root causes, and be prepared to have a thoughtful conversation about what we do to address it. And that's not for everybody. We're a pretty flat organization functionally, because we expect a lot of people. We expect them to own their departments, own their roles, because they're the expert. Some of the ways we test that too, like, how are you the expert? I think interviewing with us is a brutal process.
You were telling us about that earlier.
Yeah, like if you're going to get hired here, you have to meet with Joel, Jonathan, and I, each of us. I rarely get through an interview in less than an hour, because I just want to hear about them. And I also want them, another big thing I look for is, like, are they asking me questions?
Right.
Because if they're good at what they do, they've got options, and I better be in a position to sell them on why this is a great place to work.
Right.
And so I'm always go in with that assumption. So if I get to the end of an interview and say, do you have any questions for me? And someone says, no, I think I'm good. Like, thank you very much.
You're done.
Yeah.
So I want to look for that drive, that intellectual curiosity,
Yeah,
that ability to communicate directly.
Very smart.
And we also do, like, our interviews are pretty hands-on. So, we'll do things like, if you're a brewer, you better, like, an artist brings in a portfolio of work they've done. A brewer brings in a portfolio of beer they've made. And they sit down. We did this recently. Had a guy who sat down. He brought 15 beers that he'd made with, like, the 8, like, people of our most senior people in production and the owners and everything.
That's not intimidating.
Yeah. He had to talk through each of them.
He spent 2 hours talking through every beer, and we were asking him questions. We were nice about it generally, but, like, we were like, hey, so tell us, why did you pick that kind of barrel? Like, how long did you age this for? Walk us through your choice of a yeast strain for this beer.
What would you change?
What would you change about it? Yeah, so looking for that ability to be self-reflective and admit, like, yeah, this is what I like about it, and this is what I would change. That desire to always get better.
So you guys intentionally screw with him, like when he says, oh, I use Citra hops, you're like,
It's such an intimidating thing for people to go through. We generally try not to be too harsh, unless we feel like super confident that they're going to take the job and we want them there, and they've got a
right, and you don't
very thick skin,
and you don't have to babysit them.
Yeah,
once they make it through that interview process.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
So something else I want to talk to you guys about. You guys started off as friends brewing and developed a very legitimate business and have become business partners. That's really hard to do. And there's a lot of dynamics that go into that. When you're friends with somebody or your family with somebody, you support each other, you're there to tell them it's okay. But then when you change that dynamic into business, you hold each other accountable. How have you guys been able to balance that and stay friends through this process? or are you still?
Yeah, we're still friends.
Still friends. I do think there is. It is very much like a marriage in a way, being business partners. One of the things actually that it's like a series about marriage, and the guy talks about learning how to fight clean in your marriage. He's like every marriage has fights. If you're delusional, you might say, I never fight with my wife. And he's like, but you got to learn how to fight clean, which means that you have those hard conversations and you sort of say, not like, hey, I'm going to lob things like, Jeff, well, your facial hair is just weird and in the middle of talking about hard stuff going on. And I do think that we've learned how to have those hard disagreements. And there is honestly something where 3 is a remarkable number, because there have been so many times when 2 of us have been on one side of the fence and the other has been on the other side.
Sure,
you have that process of saying, but we've remarkably 12 years in, we've all ended up on the same page eventually, with pretty much every decision we've made as a company.
It's like the Supreme Court, there always has to be an odd number, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Somebody's always gonna win.
There's a reason it's 9 justices.
That's right.
I do regularly meet with like younger folks kind of right out of school who are trying to figure out their career and what they want to do with their lives. And one younger guy recently asked me, like, say, I'm trying to get plugged in with friends in the in Atlanta, and and I'm on the one hand, like, here there's this group of friends over here, and they have I like to have fun, but I don't feel like I'm totally on the same page with them about what I want my life to be all about. And then there's this group over here. I'm just trying to figure that out. And the thing that I told him was, I remember being like that in my 20s. And when I look back now, especially with these guys, it's a great example. My best friends are not the people that I've gone out with and had a ton of fun with out on a Friday night. They're the people that I've been on mission with. They're the people that I've built stuff with, that have spoken into my life, that we can step back. We've been sort of shoulder to shoulder, whether it's been in creating, like, my wife has been really deeply involved with starting a charter school. And so there's that. We helped start a church in our neighborhood. And so our best friends, we started a brewery. So my best friends have come from the people that we've been on mission with, where we've built something together. And I think that's been one thing.
Sacrifice together.
Yeah. And no one else understands kind of what we've been through together. And so I think sometimes this idea of separating your friendship from your business relationship. And I think for us, like, it's kind of all in there together. It's all in there together.
There was a night when we were building out here at the garage, and it was probably getting at like 11 or midnight, and all the contractors were gone. We were like racing to meet this deadline because we have a grand opening. And it's me and Jeff and Jonathan. Jeff, I think you were stapling up grain sacks on the wall.
On a scissors lift, yep.
Jonathan was maybe working on like something else, and it was like, wow, like, these are like guys that are in the trenches when it's crazy, and you're like, how the hell are we going to get this thing done?
You never forget that. Yeah. That's a bond.
Right.
One of the things that thinking about my own career, one of the biggest regrets I have is that I've always been so focused on what's next. I haven't taken the time to enjoy the journey. You guys ever think about that? Do you guys force each other to slow down and stop and just acknowledge what you've done together?
I think that's been a challenge for us as well. Because when you're starting something, it always feels like you're hanging in there by the skin of your teeth.
Yes.
You're about to run out of money. You're totally stressed out. You don't know how sales are going to go. You don't know if you can afford to hire that new person you feel like you really need.
Yeah.
So it's tough. And I think one thing that helped us is having our people tell us that we're not doing a good job at celebrating our successes. And so in a lot of ways, I think our team helped us to recognize that and begin to do a better job at that. So, and then we've tried to build in structures and ways to step back and celebrate things. We have a quarterly, like, all hands meeting where we go through an update on the business and how things are going. And a lot of times at the end of that, last summer we rented a giant slip and slide and did a bottle share, and it was a blast. So
that's awesome.
We do a retreat for our whole staff every couple of years where we get off site for a few days and talk and plan, but also enjoy each other and have fun and celebrate what we've done.
And and sometimes like you lose sight of like, we think we're just your head's down, you're making beer. This morning at like 6 a.m. I got a call and the brewers had plugged the drain under the brew house with grain. And so they're like, how do we snake this out? And so I'm like running over the brewery, snaking out grain from the drain to because they're like, and that's
Joel's still working on his delegation skills.
Yeah. And
the glorious life of a brewer.
I told the first thing I told the guy last night, I was like, all right, it's midnight. I'm not going to go. I said, here's where the drain snake is. Watch a YouTube video, and if there's problems, call me. And he didn't call me, and then I found out this morning that he didn't fix it. So,
Oops.
But then there's the things that you're like, wow, like we have, we're just making beer. But I ran into someone recently. She's on the board of the Furniture Bank, and the Furniture Bank takes all this furniture and they donate it to give beds and furniture to people that have needs. And they're right here, literally 300 yards this way is where the Furniture Bank, the Atlanta Furniture Bank is based. And she said, they do this race called Race for Rest. And she was like, we did our first year, we made like $1,000. And then last year we kind of came on as like helping them put on this whole race. We do it here at the garage. It's, they do this crazy race where they're pushing people on a bed across the parking lot along with a 5K.
Nice.
And she's like, Joel, I'm on the board, and you don't realize like when you guys jumped in and helped us put on this race, we went from raising $1,000 to now we raise $40,000 at this race.
Wow.
And she was like, that wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for Monday Night Brewing. And I just want to thank you. And this lady I'd never met before. And I was like, that's really cool. Like to just remember that we're making beer, we're doing our thing, but we actually have the ability to highlight so much good around our city and help come alongside these people that are doing just good work in our city. And she put it in terms of numbers, like how many beds that provides for, whatever, $62, they can put a bed in someone's home and give them a bed. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's the future look like for you guys? And as an entrepreneur, I know you're thinking about tomorrow.
No, I mean, one of the things I actually love about getting bigger and having such a competent team is that we do get to step back and think about where we're going.
Yeah.
And we owe that to our team. We owe that to the people who are doing that work. I think you mentioned like the space is getting incredibly, crowded, but so that means I think the first and foremost is no matter what the future holds, we got to continue to get better at what we do. We're not just staying the same. We're continuing to, and I think innovation on product, innovation on quality, all of that, innovation on process, on our people, investing in our people, training, all that stuff is critical just to staying ahead of the curve.
Right.
So that's a big part. And then in terms of growth, I think, we're Atlanta as our home. It will always be our top priority for growth. So, we built a second brewery in the city of Atlanta, not in Charlotte or Nashville or Savannah, because we believe this is our home. And so we think continuing to sink our roots deep in Atlanta is kind of growth priority number one. But then we've also launched in some new markets around in Tennessee. We launched last year, and we've been there about 6 months. It's gone tremendously well.
Awesome.
And I think, to the extent we can find good partners to grow in new geographies, we entertain that. But frankly, that's kind of a secondary goal for us to continue to grow here in our home market. We've done some fun, like kind of side projects on things like a whiskey that we partnered with a local distiller with American Spirit Works, which has been a fantastic amount of fun.
We're equal opportunity alcohol consumers.
There you go.
So, so we
Whiskey
always
in business.
We're always tinkering with stuff. We're always tinkering with new things. And how do we continue to grow this? And so once we start getting bored, then we start getting creative.
I love it.
There you go.
Well, you guys should be proud of what you've done. You've got a beautiful business. Your branding's great. Your beer is tremendous. If you have not drank Monday Night Brewing,
You're missing out.
you are missing
Really?
out, and you should start immediately because it's that good.
Thank you, guys.
We really appreciate you hosting us tonight. This has been a lot of fun. Really enjoyed trying some beers here at the garage that you can't get in the store, which I think is one of the really cool things about tap room model. You know, if you've got a brewery you like, you need to go to their tap room because chances are
that's where a lot of the good beers are.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's hard to keep it fresh in the can, you know?
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, thank you guys for hosting us.
Let's get a round of applause for the founders of Monday Night, Jeff and Joel. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.